Hey friends, happy Sunday. Today is Sunday, August 23rd, and I'm coming to you from our updated playground because actually it really connects with our story today. So our playground had some broken pieces. It has some things that needed to be refreshed, and we did those steps, and now we have this new playground. And in our story, we're gonna see that the Israelites were able to go home. Remember, they were in exile in Babylon, and they were living in a land that wasn't their own land, and they'd been there for 70 years, and they were able to go home. But when they got home, they found that their land had been destroyed and it needed to be fixed. And so that's where we're going to pick up our story today. So you can pick us up in the book of Ezra. So if you're looking in the Old Testament, it goes Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job, Psalms. Psalms is that big book. It's easy to find in the Old Testament. So just go back from Psalms to Ezra. We'll be in chapters 1 through 3. So many years before God's people were taken to Babylon, God promised the prophet Jeremiah that the exile would last 70 years, that God would bring his people back home, and God always keeps his promises. You guys remember Jeremiah, we learned about him. Cyrus, king of Persia, had taken over Babylon. God gave Cyrus an idea. Cyrus said, "Let all of God's people go back to Jerusalem so they can rebuild the Lord's temple." This was huge. This was a pagan king suggesting that a conquered people get to go home to their land. I think this was God's idea. The exile was over. God's people were free to go back to their homes. And not only that, Cyrus gave them gold and silver and animals and gifts for God's temple and told them to rebuild it. So the people got ready, and their neighbors gave them gifts, and Zerubbabel and the high priest led the people back to Judah. They had been away for 70 years, which meant some of them had never seen the land. They were born in Babylon, so this was the first time. They settled in their hometowns and set up their houses. Then the people met together in Jerusalem and rebuilt the Lord's temple. First, the priests rebuilt the altar in the same place it used to be. They followed all the laws of God for building. When the altar was finished, they burnt offerings to God to worship him. It was like a festival. Then God's people gave money to stonecutters and carpenters who could work on God's temple. Don't mind me while I turn my page. And they brought all of the parts, and finally everything was ready, and the people started working. Just like we brought all the parts in and we had a bunch of people come and start working on our playground. They laid the foundation of the temple. We actually started with our bark chips. That is our foundation because we need a soft landing for you guys because I know you all like to jump. So just like we laid our foundation, they laid their foundation. The foundation is important for making a building strong. So when the foundation was finished, the priests put on special clothes and the people praised God. They sang, "The Lord is good. His faithful love will last forever." Then the people shouted and praised God. They were so happy. The foundation of the temple was complete. But not everybody was happy. See, some of the older people remembered what the temple looked like 70 years ago, before it had been destroyed, and they cried. You see, Solomon's temple, the temple that had been destroyed, was magnificent. And those who had seen it before knew that this was different. This was a far cry from that temple. So the temple is a place where God met with his people on earth. Jesus came to earth to rescue God's people, and one day Jesus will return to restore a greater home for all of his people, and we'll spend eternity with him. So you guys, the fact is that this world that we live in is kind of like the new temple that was built. It's okay and it works and we can praise God in it, but the world that Jesus is creating for us is magnificent, like Solomon's temple, but even better. And Jesus came to rescue us from these broken things that still need to be fixed to eventually be with him in a perfect place where nothing is broken, nothing needs to be fixed, everything is exactly as it should be. All right, that is really good news. Today, we're going to go ahead and look at our key passage. So again, I'm back in the kindergarten classroom. I'm going to try to do it to row, row, row your boat again. Let's see. Okay, I have to sing row, row, row your boat to start it. Row, row, row your boat. Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power his, and he changes times and seasons. He disposes kings and raises up others. All right, try 2.0. There we go. Today's activity is really simple. What I want you guys to do is take out a piece of paper and some markers, and I want you guys to draw me a picture of a house that you would never want to live in. Okay, so it was hard for the Israelites to go back to broken houses. These are probably not houses that they ever wanted to live in. So you can go ahead and draw me those pictures. This is my picture. First of all, this house has no windows. I would never want to live in a house with no windows. This house is also infested with snakes and scorpions and spiders. So that's unpleasant. And this table has only 3 legs, so all the food slides right off. See my pizza? Slid right on the ground. The snake is eating it. So this is a house I would not want to live in. Next, I want you to draw a house that you would want to live in. So this is just the outside. You could do a lot. You could draw the inside too, but look at all the windows and doors. Look at all that natural light. And there's no snakes or scorpions or spiders. And there's probably a table with 4 legs so my pizza doesn't slide off. So I hope that you guys draw those pictures, take a picture of yourself with them, post it in the Faith Families Connect under this video, or email me at lisa@fcov.org. But I hope that you guys remember that God changed the king's heart so that the people of Israel could go home. And God was faithful to bring them back to their land, but the world was still broken by sin. Even the land God promised them was not perfect. The world is broken from sin even today, but thankfully Jesus promised to prepare a place for us to live with God forever, and one day we'll get to go there, and it's going to be magnificent. Happy Sunday.